All right, good morning. Welcome to the Women of Grace Sunday School class. It's a sunshiny day, slight breeze. Hopefully the breeze will pick up before tonight. But we're going to go ahead and get started here. We have tonight, good morning, ladies. Tonight we have our summer supper and sermon horseshoe volleyball cornhole tournament. That's a mouthful. At 5 p.m. You're like, wait, I don't see cornhole up there because it's a new added game that we are doing. So that starts at 5 o'clock here tonight under the pavilion. And, you know, come be a part. If, I know there's a sign-up sheet in the back, but we can ask Miss Judy if there's anything else that needs to be brought tonight for the event.
Nothing.
Okay. If she can think of something and you want to bring something, just let her know and we'll get that squared away. But come, be here. It is a fun service. It's one of, I love church and I love all the special services we have, but this by far is one of my favorites. So come on out. We have Dave Dickerson and his son Clint Dickerson doing the service tonight. So that'll be a blessing. So come on out. Bring family, bring friends. We'll enjoy it. And then August 15th is our Lug Nuts game at 7 p.m. It's $20 a person. I don't know how much more room we have for that.
We may not have openings, but we'll know more today.
Okay. So be sure you listen to the announcements this morning in the morning service. If you're wanting to come, please let Pastor Joe know, because if there's any openings, we would be happy to have you guys come and be a part of that. It'll be a fun day. And then August 25th, we have our missionaries from Ethiopia coming for our evening service at 5 p.m. It is the Lovegrove family. They are some of the sweetest. I think all of our missionary families are sweet. This family is just the sweetest family, and they have the sweetest boys. And you could tell their love for the Lord and the love for each other. So come be a part of that. Then September 1st is our Labor Day breakfast. And our services, 9 a.m. service, 10 a.m. service, and 11 a.m. service. The 9 a.m. service is our 5 p.m. service. So instead of a 5 p.m. service on that day, we're just moving it to 9 a.m. in the morning. So there will be no evening service on that, the 1st of September. Then September 8th is Grandparent Sunday and our kids parade. You're like, what's the kids parade? It's where all the young little kids that we have at the church come walking around the whole entire auditorium. And it's fun to see because they're all cute. They're like, being goofballs as what kids do, okay? And then September 11th is our Master Club and Teen Hour fall opening. Please pray for our Master Club and our teen class on Wednesday nights that we can grow and that we could have a good amount of kids coming out and being a part of that. Pray for the workers as we are preparing ourselves for that opening night of Master Club and Teen Hour. And then September 17th is our next mobile food pantry here at the church at 2 p.m. And then September 22nd is our anniversary Sunday. So come on out to these events. If you did not, I'm going to borrow this, Murray. She's reading it, but I'm going to borrow it so she'll have to remember where she left off. If you have not got one of these community connection papers, grab one because it has all of our upcoming events on the back. And it also just has a little devotional / whatever letter from Pastor on the front of it. And so please grab one of these if you have not grabbed one. There you go, Murray. I think you were right there. So please be a part and grab that. Judy, I almost said the wrong name. Judy has a card for Rhonda Beebe. She's having eye surgery on the 15th, I believe is what she said. So please pray for her, put her on your prayer list. And if you can, just sign that card and give it back to Judy whoever the last one is. Now, you're like, Kyla, it's not fall yet. Well, let me tell you, it's coming up faster than what you think, okay? I need ladies, if you're wanting to come to this ladies retreat this fall, October 10th through the 12th, please sign up If you know how to use a computer, register now, because the spots are getting filled, and they're getting filled fast. The speaker is Debbie Pride. She is a phenomenal speaker. I've gone to a couple of her ladies' retreats, but I also, Judy and Dee and myself, we went to her Women Counseling Women. It was great. A lot of information in just a short time, but it was worth it. But she is a phenomenal speaker. She's been doing this for years. She speaks all over the country. If you are interested, but you do not do well with computers, come to me, let me know. I could give you paper form, and we can sign it. You can fill it out, and we can send it, and we'll go from there. But I need to know before too long, because we need to make sure that we have that Kobiak has enough space for all the ladies that are wanting to come. So I will be coming around or contacting you and inviting you to come. So Wanda, think about that, because I know you and I have talked about that like 2 months ago. So, so please, please, please sign up for that and let me know. Next month, one second, Marie, I'm sorry. Next month, we're going to be picking back up our ladies' Bible study, September 9th at 11 a.m. at Olive Garden. And I'm trying to get it to where, I'm thinking about moving days for whatever days work best for other people. I know, like, Judy works on Monday, so it's hard for her to come out on Mondays. Mondays. So if I can figure out another time where it would work for more of the ladies to come, we're going to try and figure that out. I'm going to talk to Pastor and Pastor Joe to see what day they would suggest, and then we could go from there. But as of right now, September 9th at 11 a.m. at the Olive Garden right over here. Please come. In the next couple weeks, I'll probably have a sign-up sheet so we know how many to plan for, so I can call on that Monday at about 10 o'clock letting Olive Garden know how many ladies are coming, okay? So please remember these announcements. Marie, you had a question?
What's the website we need to go to sign up for?
Camp Kobiak or kobiak.org. It'll come up pretty much right away if you put Camp Kobiak. Yes, ma'am.
And you wouldn't have to call out there. If it's more than 6 people, you can just walk right in the door and let them, just one person, let them know how many you've got.
Perfect, Lori. Thank you.
Tables up right away.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I don't know. It depends. We were just trying to make it a change, do it a little different, something. So I'll talk to Pastor and Pastor Joe and some of the other ladies to see if they want to stay or whatnot, but we'll see. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on our lesson today. Last week, does anybody remember what we talked about last week? Yep. Well, he lived in Egypt for 40 years. Okay. And then he left and then spent how many years in the Sinai desert? 40. Okay. So he grew up in this fancy palace, had a great education, and then he left there and was living in a dirty, hot, miserable place for 40 years. So going from, well, they didn't have air back then, but I'm sure they had some way of getting airflow through there, maybe, I don't know. But he lived in this lavish lifestyle and then went from great to not so great. And we all decided that it was like Jesus, how he left heaven's throne, came down to this horrible place, and gave himself for us, okay? Well, this week, we are going to be talking about Egypt's first plagues, okay? Well, connecting lessons. For many years, the Hebrew slaves in Egypt endured cruel bondage, okay? They got beaten. Okay, they work from sun up to sundown, and maybe a little longer. These people were making bricks for Pharaoh. Okay? Well, their only recourse was to cry out to God for deliverance. How many of you at some point in your life was like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then you pray a prayer and you cry out to the Lord saying, Lord, help me through this. I can't do this without your help. But how many of us have been sitting here thinking, I don't do that, maybe not as often as I should? Maybe make a decision today to maybe start praying that. When you're in a tough situation, whether it's health, finances, or whatever it may be, sit there and say, Lord, you're in control. You're the only person who can help me through this. I give it to you. Well, I'm so many years old. That's okay. From the oldest in here to the youngest in here, we still need to pray it. No matter where we're at in life, no matter what we're doing, no matter where we're working, there are going to be days where Dee doesn't want to deal with her boss or deal with her unsaved work buddies. But it's just to say, Lord, this is my job. I need your help. I don't agree with all of these people, what they do, but help me to be that shining example that I need to be for my people I work with. Same with Lori. She works at Olive Garden. There's a lot of people there, I'm sure, that probably aren't saved. But I know she is. I've known her for years. And she can be that shining example to the people she works with. But she has to be willing and say, Lord, help me at work today to be a shining light to the people I work with. Because I can't do it without your help. I want to be that good testimony to my coworkers. But I can only do it through you. So, you're like, well, Kyla, what about you? You're in church ministry, so you don't go to church and work all day. No, but I have 3 kids at home. And I need God to help me, Dee, to be the best mom I can to those 3 munchkins. And the only way I can do that, Rosie, is by praying and asking God to help me through it. Because it's tough. There are really crazy days, but there are also really good days, because then you could see them actually wanting to get along and play with each other and not fight over the littlest things. But also my job is not just a mom. I'm a wife too, of going on 13 years in November. And what a blessing to be able to do that. But there are days, for those of you who have been married for a while, know that there are days where it's hard to deal with your spouse or to agree with some of the stuff that we might not agree with, but hey, who cares? We've been married this long. It's worked so far. But not just that, I'm a pastor's wife. Or the first lady of the church, so I've been told, like when mother passed away. And that is a high, what's the word I'm looking for? High compliment, but also a high responsibility. And Laura, there are times where I feel like I'm doing nothing for the church ladies, but my husband's like, you have no idea. Yeah. I was like, okay. I said, I know a part of me says, I understand what I'm doing. Yeah. And Pastor just told me this morning that his cousin's daughter told him that she watches our Sunday school class every morning, unless it conflicts with their service schedules, and then she watches it later on in the week. And that's a blessing to hear. And I'm not one to say, oh yeah, people are listening to me, woohoo, like, oh good, I'm glad I can know that I'm getting the word out there. I appreciate that. And I'm not saying saying that for you ladies to feel sorry. That's just me. That's how I feel. That's how I think. It's a bad way to think, but I'm asking God every day to help me with that. But think of Moses, where he went from way up here to a lowly shepherd. Okay, where really nobody really wanted to listen to him because they're like, what does he know? But if they heard his backstory, then they would probably understand, okay, this guy's real smart. All right? Well, God appeared to him in a burning bush and told him to bring the people of Israel out of Egypt. He gave Moses 3 signs or miracles to prove to the Hebrews and to Pharaoh that the true God had sent him. Does anybody remember what those 3 miracles were? Talked about it last week. What? Water into blood. Mm-hmm. Rod, the serpent. Yep. And what did the serpents do to the magician serpents? Ate them all up. But see, then they knew that once Moses picked it up, that there was something more powerful than their magic. Okay, what was the third thing? What was that? Leper's hand. So, okay, Dee, I'm going to put my hand in my pocket here, bring it back up. Ah! That would be kind of, I'm terrified enough of snakes, so that serpent one would, give me the heebie-jeebies. But then seeing a leper's hand, it's not. I think whenever I have rashes on my arms from picking vegetables out of the garden is bad enough, but seeing a leper's hand, blistery, pussy, nasty, probably stinky, just like the blood, When they did that, it was stinky because all the fish died. And blood doesn't smell good anyway. So, But anyway, so those were the 3 miracles. Well, 2 sources of miracles. We see 2 sources of power that can work miracles. Miracles often deceive people. Why? Well, because many people are naive and believe that every miracle has to be of God. For only God can work miracles. No, the truth is the devil can also work miracles. Isn't that scary to think about? Well, if something supernatural happens, our question ought to be, is this of God or is this of the devil? It can be either. Aaron's miracle was from God. The magician's miracles were from the devil. Aaron's serpent ate the magician's serpents. So when Aaron's serpent turned back into a rod, the magicians had neither rods nor serpents. Okay? So this was really a contest between God's power and Satan's power. The Egyptians were steeped in superstition and demonism. Thus, their magicians worked miracles by demonic power. How many of you have heard of a Ouija board? Yeah. Is that of God or is that of Satan? Now, I've never messed with one, never planned on messing with one, but I had a missionary, evangelist who I grew up listening to like every winter retreat. So I could almost tell you what sermon he was going to preach, which is not a bad thing. That means I was actually listening. I could almost give you point by point or story by story, but he was telling a story about some people that would mess with the Ouija board, or that they were, another point, were demonic, where the person's eyes rolled back into their head and they came back and it was a totally different person. Now, that just gives you the chills to think about it. But then they got saved and they changed. So don't mess with satanic stuff. Okay? It's not worth it. It'll change you completely. Okay? Well, let's not forget that eternity past, when God cast Satan out of heaven, God never took Satan's power away from him. Okay?
You just couldn't, you could only use it on the earth, right?
Yes. If something miraculous or supernatural happens, we need to ask, is this Satan or of God? Satan will trick people into believing that anything supernatural has to be of God, but it does not. Let's not be naive, but remember that Satan has great power. However, God is all-powerful. I know there have been times where I had gotten close calls to getting in accidents. And every time I walk away thanking God, thank you for protecting me. When I was younger, I was in an accident with some of my friends from high school. We were leaving volleyball practice, and she was driving home. She was a very good driver. And the senior citizen couple pulled out of Taco Bell and didn't wait in the turn lane, and they just kept going over. Well, we were right here as they were coming over, so they hit us. But I don't think they really knew what happened. So they kept driving. So we pulled off to the road, into a parking lot, and we called the police. And the funny thing was that the police officer that was on scene, I knew his sisters, which is really kind of funny but awkward at the same time. But anyway, and so he goes, "Are you girls okay?" We're like, "Yeah, we're fine. We don't know where the other people went. They just kept driving." He goes, "Did you get a look?" I said, "Well, they were senior citizen people." And I'm not talking bad about senior citizens, but they had no clue what happened. So they kept driving. And he goes, "Well, as long as nobody's hurt, there's no damage, maybe a little scratch." He goes, "Are you girls okay? Do you want to press?" "No, we don't need to press charges. It's fine." So we drove off. We were fine. It could have been way worse than what it was. Luckily, there was nobody in the other lane next to us when that happened, because then it would have been more. Then there was another time when Mom and us kids were driving home from school, a little minivan, and cars were going this way as we were coming home. And right as we passed that car, it lost control and hit two other cars behind us. So there was multiple times, and there's more, but I'm not going to keep going down that rabbit trail. But we have to be careful to not be so, as they say, naive, because Satan is very deceitful. He's sneaky. We have to be careful. We have to ask God and pray to God every day that He will help us not be so naive when it comes to what's a miracle and what is not. Well, what's of God and what's of Satan. Okay? Don't fear Satan. Oops. We should never fear Satan, nor let fears of his evil power enter our hearts. Because you know what? If we're a Christian, we know what's right. Okay? Because God is in control of everything. And so He can control things more than what Satan can. And He could take care of Satan. Okay? Well, we are only to fear God, which is the wholesome, good kind of fear. Scripture says, "I will fear no evil, for thou art with me," in Psalm 23:4. "And what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee." Psalm 56:3. When we remember that God is much more powerful than Satan, it helps us not to fear Satan. Glory Ann, all last week, she would wake up in the middle of, I'm like, she hasn't done that in forever. And I'm like, what is going on? We've realized that some cartoon that she was watching would scare her. So we're like, no, you can't watch that anymore. Not until you're a little older. It's not a bad show. You know, it's just a cartoon I used to watch when I was a kid. And And so she goes, Mommy, I'm afraid. I said, honey, you don't need to be afraid. I said, the Bible says, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. When we put our trust in God, ladies, there's no reason to fear. Because God's in control of everything. Okay? So every night I pray with her. She goes, Mommy, can you listen to me pray? I was like, yes. So she prays and she said, Mom, Lord, help me not to be afraid. Help me not to have bad dreams. Help me to only have good dreams. And that's not a bad prayer to pray. I, as an adult, pray that prayer. Because I still get nightmares. How many of you still get nightmares? Okay, don't make me and Murray be the only ones. Okay, come on. But I still get nightmares sometimes. And it scares me. But I pray every night. I'm like, Lord, help us all to have good dreams and not bad dreams. Because you're in control. But our subconscious sometimes gets overstimulated with something and it brings it up when we sleep, and then poof, there they are. There's those terrifying dreams. Okay? And I remember Stephen would have night terrors, 3 o'clock in the morning when he was younger, and it scared me. As a first-time mom, I'm like, what do I do? I was terrified. But Joe got up and took him, and it's like, Stephen, look in the mirror, saying, like, wake up, trying to help him wake up so he's not. So he finally would calm down after like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of crying. I'm like, so luckily he grew out of it, but there are still people to this day that still have night terrors. But we need to make sure that we are praying and asking God for help with that. We also need to guard our minds by not being occupied with thoughts about Satan in books, in music, internet, DVDs, TV shows, etc., which deal with satanic things. Nor should we get involved with people who talk about or are involved in any way with Satanism, witchcraft, the cult, or astrology. One of Satan's tricks is to first get a person occupied with satanic influences. Teens are very easily persuaded. But us adults can be too. We got to be careful as adults as well, because kids look up to us no matter how old they are. Okay, I'm 37. I'm still a kid to some of you. So I could be like, Rosie, what should I do? I want advice. I want help on some things. Not decorating though. Just kidding. I want help, okay? I hate asking for it because I think I could do it all, but in all reality, it's much better when I have multiple ladies coming to help decorate or to help me make a decision on what I should do with something, okay? Don't be afraid to ask for help, all right? You're like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if we get good advice and a multitude of counselors, there is safety. What? It's from the Bible. When we have a multitude of counselors, we'll find safety in life, in the decisions we make, okay? Well, Scripture says, God says, I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. 1 Corinthians 10:20. And Scripture warns about witches, wizards, and familiar spirits. In Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12 says, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Now, I don't believe in witches. Okay, there are people out there who believe in that. People believe in Bigfoot. Seriously, okay, it's not real. When I was in college, there were people, you're like, this has nothing to do with, yes, it does. Okay, when I was in college, friends of mine would try and convince me that there was such a thing as a dog man. They're like, yeah, it's like, I'm like, no. There's no such thing. So they were trying to scare me. Okay, I scare easily, but seriously, a dog man, that's like a comic book character. Okay, seriously. You guys can't scare me. Well, it's true. They saw markings or sightings of it. Like, really? You could go try that trick on somebody else. It's not going to work on me. Then I'd be like, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I'm just like, come on. But people who believe in witches and that kind of stuff and satanic, it's an abomination to the Lord. You don't want to get God angry. Okay? We need to remember in 1 Peter 5, 8, and 9, it warns us, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour, whom resist steadfast in the faith. Satan is like a lion looking for the weak, the young, the old. Satan's looking to attack, but don't let him attack you. Be steadfast. Be ready to move. Ask God to help you every day to be a strong Christian, to grow your faith more, to be wise in your decisions. We are to fill our minds with things that are good and of God. In Philippians 4:8, it says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true. Is a dog man real? No. Is Bigfoot real? No. Okay? Are witches real? No. Think of that. True. Is it honest? Is Satan an honest person? No. Is he just? No. Is he pure? Is he lovely? No. Okay? If there be of a good report, if there be any virtue or any praise, think on these things. I had somebody say, if you're watching something or reading something or listening to music, think of Philippians 4:8. Because that'll help you get your mind thinking, is this music right? Is this show right? Are these books that I'm reading right? Growing up, Mom, I was not a reader, but I did love these Christian romance books. Okay, I'm not a reader, but I love those. I mean, I read Hardy Boys, I read Nancy Drew, but it was few and far between, okay? I'm not like this avid reader. But when I had to do this silly summer reading program, I had to read, and I did not like it, Rosie. But I did it because my mom told me to, and I did it half-heartedly, Julie, because my mom told me to, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I just will do it. But anyway, so I read these Christian romance books, and my mom came in one time, and I was reading, and she goes, what are you reading? I said, oh, I'm reading this. She goes, okay, those are good. I said, Mom, they're Christian books. She goes, well, I'm glad they're Christian books, but that kind of stuff is not real. That's not how a marriage and romance actually works. It's like, but no, I want you to read something that'll help you spiritually. Okay, fine. And then I didn't really read much anymore, but I've picked up reading over the last few years on books that'll actually help me as a mom, help me think better financially. I'm reading a book now from Dave Ramsey's daughter who wrote it that my husband got, and I'm halfway through the book. So I'm proud of myself. So I'm getting there. But then when I was first married, my mother-in-law got me a book, Having a Merry Heart in a Martha World. Very good book. A couple other books I read, and I'm like, I read all these books? I mean, it took me months or years to read it, but just like 2 years ago, I finished a book that my mother-in-law gave me when I first started dating Joe, which was a while ago. But as you see, I'm not an avid reader. I can't just sit down and just read like my sisters can, Cammie and my older sister. But anyway, so we need to be vigilant, okay? As we think about all the good things God does for us and can do for us, our faith becomes strong. When we realize, ladies, that God has done so much in our lives, and guess what? He's still working, no matter how old we are. God still works in us. We have to just be willing to let him. Don't, as we tell our kids, don't clench your fists. Open them up and let God help you. Because that's the only way we could get through life is with God's help. Okay? Well, the first plague, water to blood. Since Pharaoh did not give permission for the Hebrews to go 3 days in the wilderness to worship, God sent the first plague, which is turning the water into blood. Okay? That morning when Pharaoh went to the river, Moses stood by the river's edge with his rod and told Pharaoh, "The Lord God of the Hebrews has sent me to say, 'Let my people go, serve me in the wilderness.' Since you will not, you will know that the Lord is God. For he will smite the waters in the Nile River, and the waters will turn to blood." Now, just close your eyes for a minute and try and put yourself there in Egypt at this time. Everything looks beautiful, green, water flowing clear, like the clearest water you can think of, beautiful flowers. And then Moses tells you this, and then he puts his rod in the water, or smotes the water, and the water turns to blood. Just think of how beautiful it was, and then think when Moses turned the water into blood, what it would look like. Thicker, not clear, smelly. What else? What do you think? What about the flowers? You know those water lilies? I don't think that would be lasting very long once that water turned into blood. Okay? Or let's put it this way. Okay, this is not with water to blood, but you have your house all nice and clean and organized. Then if you have grandkids at your house, you just had Autumn and her kids, right? You have it all neat and clean. You have family or your kids wake up. Within 2 seconds, maybe a little more than that, but it's a pigsty. Like, it was so clean. Why? Why can't they just play with one thing and then put it away? But they don't. They're kids. Me as an adult, sometimes I do that too. And I'm like, why can't I just put it away? Just put it away. It takes you 2 steps. It takes you 2 seconds to put the clothes in the drawer. Just do it. And I get onto my kids, if you don't want to clean your room, put the stuff away. If you pick up after yourselves, it makes your house a whole lot easier to clean up when you want to have company over. So you're not taking forever. The day of, you have company coming over to clean up your house. I don't want to do this anymore. Neither do I. As a 37 or however old you are. We don't want to clean up because we're so tired from the long day. I hate being an adult sometimes. I'm sure y'all don't like being an adult sometimes too, but it's part of life. Okay? But picturing that, it's like, ugh. The people could not drink the water. And of course it's going to be hot there, okay? The people could not drink the water, but had to dig water around the river's edge. Soon, all the dead fish created a horrible smell. Now, I fish. I don't like the smell of the fish, and to get the smell out of my hands, it's just gross. But I enjoy fishing. I actually now am holding the fish under the big fish under the gill. And I never used to do that, Laura. It just still kind of grosses me out, but like whatever. And so I was holding a pike like this the other day, squeezing it so it wouldn't move. They're not as wiggly as like bass or bluegill, but anyway, I was probably squeezing the life out of it so it wouldn't flop everywhere. But smelling that horrible smell everywhere you went, gross. No matter where you were, it smelled. You couldn't get away from it. Like you smell like rotten vegetables or rotten milk. Yeah, that'll just stay in your nose for a while. Or a skunk. Yeah, I have a story about skunks. I'll tell you later if you want to know, okay? Well, the Pharaoh's magicians turned water to blood with enchantments, and Pharaoh hardened his heart. Have we hardened our hearts to God? Maybe something happened in your life where you're like, I don't need God. Don't be like Pharaoh. Don't harden your heart. Give it to him. Let God soften your heart back up so that he can work in your life. 7 days later, a week, it stunk. Okay? 7 days later, fresh water flowed, pushing bloody waters downstream. For the Nile River turned to blood was a nuisance and a big inconvenience. It dishonored and showed the powerlessness of their Egyptian river god, which they worshipped. These people, they didn't worship our Heavenly Father, as you know that in this story. They believed that there was a God that lived in the river. So they worshipped it. Okay? Well, the second plague was frogs. Frogs scare me because they blend in with the rocks. The other day I was doing something and I moved something and I saw a little frog. I'm like, it scared me. Now, mind you, I don't like frogs either, but I prefer them over snakes. And I know both of them eat, insects or mice, which I could take them eating the mice, but I don't want them around my house, okay? And my kids saw some frogs yesterday in our window well behind our air conditioner unit, so they were excited. They're like, Mommy, look, there's frogs. I'm like, yeah, keep them in there. I mean, they're good for fishing, so I've been told. I've never tried it, but frogs, okay? Moses went again to Pharaoh and told him, let my people go, that they may serve me, and if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. And of course, as we know, he refused, and so here come the frogs. Now, if you went to go put on your nice comfy slippers, cozy slippers, squish. Yeah. Or you went to go put on your bathrobe. Oh, you put your hands in your pockets if you have pockets on your robe. Okay, let me go wash my hands now. Okay. They were everywhere. In the food, probably. Do you think you would want to eat any of that food that you see a frog jumping in? Nope. Okay, let alone flies. They're hard enough to want to eat food when there's flies flying around everywhere. Well, frogs were in the fields, gardens, houses, beds, ovens, cooking troughs. Everywhere there were frogs. What a terrible nuisance, okay? The Egyptians worshipped many gods. The head of a frog represented their what god? Oh, let me guess. Frog god. Yeah, exactly, Wanda. Yeah, frog god, okay. In Exodus 8:7, it says, and the magicians did so with their enchantments and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. Well, one more night with the frogs. Pharaoh promised that if Moses would get rid of the frogs, he would let the Hebrews go, worship their God. Moses then asked, when shall I entreat the Lord to destroy the frogs, that they may remain in the river only? Pharaoh said, tomorrow. We've all heard the expression, don't put off tomorrow what you could do today. I think that's the right wording. Okay? Why put it off? Why have another night with these annoying, disgusting, slimy critters? Just get rid of it. Get rid of that annoying thing that's in your life that's keeping you back, that's holding you back from growing in the Lord spiritually. Get rid of it. I don't know how to. Lord, it's in your hands. I don't know what else to do. I need your help. Please help me out. That's what you can do. Well, He was willing to endure one more night with the frogs. Moses then asked the Lord to remove the frogs, and the frogs died and were piled in heaps, which meant the whole land had another smelly stench. Yep. This so irritated Pharaoh that he hardened his heart again. You know, when things bad happen in your life, don't be a Pharaoh. There's no reason to be. That icky, nasty, annoying thing is going to keep happening if you harden your heart. Don't harden your heart. Give it to God, and He will see you through it. Okay? Well, the third plague, lice. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. The Lord then sent the third plague, which is lice. In Exodus 8:17 through 19, it says, Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there was lice upon man and upon beast. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, This is the finger of God. Wait a second. Who told this to Pharaoh? Oh, wait a minute. His magicians that don't believe in God, that worship frogs and rivers, said, no, this is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. All the people and animals were scratching at lice. Now, I've never had it, but I've got treated for it just to be safe because my mom was very paranoid. But I understand why, because she had a kid in her class who had a head of hair. I'm not kidding. I think I told you this, or I told somebody this. But they had a head of hair. And one day she was teaching, and all of a sudden he was just scratching his head. She looked down at his desk, Rosie. Yep. To her horror, Dee. Well, she's like, okay, come with me. Nest. She called his mom. His mom came. She goes, you need to take care of this. He can't come, take care of it. Cut his hair. Comes back in. I don't know how long after. Again. She goes, you got to buzz his hair. My mom said this. You got to buzz his hair or he can't come back to school until it's completely gone. I was like, Mom, are you kidding me? She goes, no. So, of course, she took all of our brushes, all of our hair stuff, soaked it. Then she did that nasty, stinky lice treatment, the knit stuff or whatever. Ugh. It stunk so bad. And of course, all of our hair, like Gloria Ann, every inch of it. I mean, she had it. I'm like, ugh. So I get it. It's nasty. It's not a fun thing to do, okay? Well, this plague was different than the first two. It was the creation of lice, for the dust particles, inanimate objects, became tiny living creatures we call lice. And Pharaoh's magicians could not do this miracle. Because guess what? This was God's miracle, not Satan's. Satan could do the first two, right? But they couldn't do this one, okay? The Pharaoh's, this is beyond us, Pharaoh. You better be careful. This is not a trick. This is what his magicians told him. It is a greater power than we have. But Pharaoh did not listen. Some have wondered if this was the beginning of lice on earth. We don't know that for sure, and the scripture does not say. Lice was Egypt's third plague. There would be 7 more plagues, and each one was worse than the others. Through these plagues, God will bring Egypt down to nothing, and the Egyptians and Hebrews will see the mighty power of the true God. How many of you in your lifetime, up until now, from when you were old enough to understand what's going on till now, how many of you have been through a trial or a trouble in your life that you were not sure that you were going to overcome? Don't be shy to raise your hand. It's okay. I'm sure there has been times in each of one of our lives where we've gone through something that we thought we would never make it through. Whether it's being sick or finances or family situations. Okay? But then something happened and God helped you through it. Maybe it was somebody saying, no, maybe you should come to church. Or maybe it was a friend or a family, something happened in their lives that made you think, if this was me, what would I do? Think about that. Okay? Plagues show 4 things. The first the plagues show God's power in the universe. He controls all of nature and has the greatest power in the universe. Second, the plagues reveal the justice of God. For many years, Egypt held the Hebrews in cruel bondage, which we've already talked about. And that would not go unpunished by God. When you mess with God's people, look out. Be aware that God's punishment is way worse than any punishment that we could get here on earth. Now, when our kids get in trouble and they don't like telling the truth, we're like, well, we don't know who's telling the truth or not. So we give it to the Lord. And you better hope that God is a generous God, because God's punishment is going to be way worse than what I could give. And we're not trying to do that to threaten them. We're trying to let them know that, hey, if you can't tell us the truth, then God's going to have to just deal with you on his own. And we're very careful when we say that, because we don't want the worst thing to happen to them. But we want them to know that, hey, you can't lie to God. But they're kids. Yeah, but we're adults, and we were once kids too. But as an adult, that doesn't give us the right to do wrong, just because we lived a long life. We are God's children, and we still need to respect him. Because if we respect him, then the younger generation, the younger kids, including me, can see that, hey, Rosie did something right. Because God still has her here on earth. He's not finished with any of us yet. So we have to think that way, and we have to think, hey, we can be responsible for the younger kids of how they want to turn out in life. Well, all my kids are grown. My kids didn't turn out the way they should have. Well, they could still come back to God and get their lives right. Okay? The third plague, with the fourth plague, we will see God's goodness to the Hebrews. As he puts a difference between the Egyptians and his people, the Hebrews will no longer experience plagues, which will show God's goodness in protecting his people. The fourth, the plagues show that God has power over the wickedness of this world's evil systems. God's in control of everything. God commands his people to separate from evil, and if the child of God does not separate from evil, God will chasten him. Okay? The book of Exodus, here's spiritual types, and then we'll be done. The book of Exodus has spiritual types or parallels. Egypt is a type of the world's evil system or kingdom of darkness. Pharaoh is a type of Satan. Israel's struggle to get out of Egypt parallels an unsaved person's conviction of sin before he is saved. Satan does not want anyone to leave his kingdom and become a member of God's kingdom. Just remember that. He doesn't want any of us to enter God's kingdom. Okay? Therefore, he puts up strong resistance to keep everyone in his kingdom. So he does whatever it takes to keep somebody from getting saved. Okay? God's power is greater than Satan's power, and God controls the universe and wants to control our lives. Don't let Satan control your life. Get rid of any hindrances that may hinder you from growing spiritually. Well, I don't know what that is. Well, maybe sit down, pray, and ask God to help you focus on what it is that's hindering you from growing spiritually. Okay? Don't be afraid to ask God for help, to show you what it is. He wants us to pray about our problems, and he will answer our prayer in his time, not ours. And sometimes it's hard for us to wait for that answer. But if we rush it, then we're going to struggle a little bit more because it was us answering that prayer because we wanted it answered right now. Okay? Dee, if I can have you head to the back while I close this up. Here are some verses I want you to remember. Hebrews 11:25 says, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Hebrews 11:26 says, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. In Colossians 3:23, whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. And then